So today, overnight, this whole move right here, the spike during the pre-market, that was a headline of Trump stating that what he said, let me quote something about ending the war. But yeah, essentially it was a positive war headline. Yeah, he's like, Trump says Iran wants to make a deal badly, could be within 5 days or sooner. Um, so yeah, that's what that huge spike was. And I seen it. I seen the headline. I was up for it at 7 a.m. But I didn't go. I didn't go to the charts. I should have went to the charts and at least seen what happened, because it did. It did. See, it closed right there, so I wouldn't have got in right there, and then it did that. But by then, it's like I'd be looking at like, yeah, we're way too up. It's too. I wouldn't be getting in at the end of this candle. Still would have been interesting to see. But today we're not. The only strategy of mine that I'm trading is the headlines driven market strategy, where I just wait for headlines, heavy impact headlines, heavier impact headlines, and then when that happens, we're waiting to see price break. Like, it has to react to it. It has to have an obvious reaction to the headline. Like, okay, it's going in this direction all of a sudden, and it's got heavy candles, and it has to break through a level, not necessarily like previous day high low or pre-market high low. It could be, it has to be like a swing, pretty much any SNR, support resistance level, um break through that, and then I enter on that candle close, and it has to actually close past that breakthrough point, and then that's when I would get in, and I would use the same stop loss strategy as my opening market strategy. And that's the only strategy I trade during what I would consider a headlines driven market, plus shitty price action. But if price action goes back to normal, the headlines aren't really coming out like crazy. um After a few days of like it being stable in price action, and price action isn't shitty, then I would be able to go back and switch to the opening market strategy. But it's either one or the other. I can't do both. If I'm doing a headlines driven market strategy, I can't trade my opening market strategy. If I'm trading my opening market strategy, I can't trade my headlines market strategy. It's either one or the other. I've got my phone set up to receive headlines. I follow certain people on Twitter that are very quick with releasing headlines. I follow a few people, and I got my watch set up, my smartwatch set up to alert me to all my notifications on my phone. So even if I'm not looking at my phone or I don't hear my phone, I see it on my watch. So that's pretty dope. I won't miss any headlines that way. So that's what's going on today. And with this strategy, it's more so a 24/7 24/5 strategy. I can trade, like for instance, this whole move right here at 7, that headline drop. I would have been able to look at that as an entry opportunity or a trade opportunity. I would have been able to, because it's 24/5. Doesn't matter if it's 7 a.m. or whatever. So I could, even if I'm away from the charts, because it's like 4 o'clock stock market close. I'm trading futures over here, so it's cool. There's a headline, super important headline that comes out at 7, I'm gonna go straight to my chart and see and look for opportunity. But I'm still also, while I'm doing this headline driven market strategy, I am also still looking to see what would happen if I were to use my opening market strategy, you know? So in a way, I'm kind of like imaginary trading that, and that would also give me a better idea as the days go by as to if and when price action goes back to being more in my favor, to be able to use that strategy and stop using the headline strategy. So I'm still paying attention to like how price action moves. Is it respecting levels now, or is it like, no, fuck the levels, we're still like just waiting on headlines and not respecting levels, because when headlines drop, it's like, fuck these levels, we're doing what we want, and the price action is shitty. But if it's been a couple days of good price action, it's respecting levels, it is going back to more of a pure price action, and the headlines aren't really doing anything crazy to the pricing, then that's cool. You can still have headlines, but it needs to, the price action needs to be favorable to my opening market strategy in order for me to use it. It has to, actually respect and react to these, pre-market highs and lows and previous day highs and lows. It needs to, actually go back to like more of a pure price action for me to use that strategy. The headline market driven strategy is pretty much me trading the news plus breakout. That's all that is for the most part. There's some intricacies in there in that strategy, but for the most part, all the huge chunk of it is just news, big enough news plus breakout. And obviously, we'll know how heavy the headline is just based off of me being in the know of like what's going on with as far as news headlines go, and being able to tell, okay, that's kind of significant. And or looking at price and seeing how price reacts to that headlines drop. Obviously, if you get big candles, this is an extreme example, this shit right here. But if I'm getting like big candles, very high velocity in one direction, and it breaks kind of easily through certain level or levels, then we know, okay, it's reacting to that headline for sure, one. And then two, yeah, it's an opportunity. And just like my opening market strategy, I keep my stop pretty tight. At least that initial stop. That initial stop will be pretty tight. When I start, when I trail the stop, it's also going to be pretty tight. But especially in the initial stop, it's always going to be tight. So like something like this, obviously I wouldn't have, if I was to just somehow enter right here, I would not put my stop all the way back there. That's nuts. No, I'd look, okay, let's just put like it's ended right here. I will put it like maybe right here. Yeah, since pretty much that news, and then Iran kind of actually said, nah, right here, this is where Iran was like, the Iran media was like, no, we didn't say anything about a deal. We're not working on no deal. We didn't talk with Trump. So that's what this move was. So if I want to enter on that, I would have entered here. It would have been break even, pretty much, if I would take that. But no new headlines since then. Not even small. Oh, and for the headline market strategy that I'm trading right now, I do half position size. Whatever the normal position size is on my opening market strategy, we're doing half position sizes for that, at least as of how the strategy is right now. And I love it. And with this headlines strategy, I love it because we're not chasing news. Because I used to try to trade the news, like get on the candle at the exact time I see the headlines, and that shit would always fuck me up for some reason. But with this strategy, we're not just jumping just off of the reaction, immediate reaction. We're getting in once it breaks a level. So that means we're seeing it and the candle close. So we're seeing it. Like, hold on. But yeah, forgot what I was saying. But basically, we're not jumping on headline news candle. Like it needs to break too. So it's that plus price action. So higher opportunity trade basically. We're getting some new headlines coming in, so we'll see how price reacts to these. Nothing important yet. By the way, I've said this before, but just to be clear, I'm getting these headlines directly from some of the people that I follow on Twitter. And yes, I still call it Twitter. It's the fastest way for me to get, because the people I follow, they are quick. Um, some of the people I follow, they just get their stuff straight from a Bloomberg terminal. And Bloomberg terminal, if you ever heard of it, they have like the fastest news wire. So they're just pretty much getting it straight from there and quickly putting it out on X, on Twitter. So yeah, having these notifications on my watch is really good, because I can't sit here in front of my phone all the whole time and stuff like that. Wait, look at this price action. If I was trading the opening market strategy and not the headline driven plus shitty price action strategy, I would have seen this. Depending on what was going on during this candle, but just looking at the candle after the fact, there's a good chance I would have got in right here and I would have got stopped out. This is why we don't trade the opening market strategy during um during very headline driven market and bad price and bad price action to go along with that. That's why people are waiting for headlines to react to more than they are just pure price action. Is my opinion. That's my theory. see how the market is pretty. It's only been 30, 40 minutes, but see how the market is very directionless and motionless right now. People are waiting on headlines. So honestly, when I'm trading a headlines driven market and there's not really much headlines going around at the moment, um, I can step away from the chart. Just leave the chart open if I can. Maybe even on the laptop and not on my main computer, but just have it ready and open. Um, and I can go about doing stuff around the house or whatever. Probably not cook at least until market ends, but um, yeah, I think I'll allow myself to just kind of do other things because when a headline comes in, I see it. If I think it's significant enough, I can then go to the chart and see how it's reacting to it. Because I'll have time because I'm not typically not entering as soon as the headline drops. I'm getting the headline, think it's something kind of important. I go take a look at the chart and then see how it reacts because it's gonna, it needs to drop. It, the headline needs to come out and it needs to break a level. And I think when I step away, I'm just gonna pause the video because there's no point in me recording all of this. There's nothing much going on here with price. As an update, there is nothing going on. I think when it comes to these headline driven market strategy that I'm doing, I'll record up until market close. And if I trade outside of market hours, I'll just record once, as the opportunities present themselves. But when I record till market close, if price isn't really doing much, I'm just gonna pause the recording until price actually starts moving around. Save your time and mine's and my in my file space as well. Still nothing's happened headlines wise or price action wise. Just look how ugly this is, bro. Just look at the ugliness. This is ill. There's no velocity or momentum in any direction. Very, very yuck. During times like these where the market isn't doing anything, I just had to sit here and just wait long periods of time with no kind of excitement going on. Uh, what I do like to do, especially when it's like not in near any potential levels, opportunity levels, I just like to play video games. So I have my main monitor, use my main computer that I actually watch the chart on because I have an ultra wide, and then I have my laptop on the side that I actually will play video games on while I have the chart on the other ultra wide. So, I play things like some light stuff, some lightweight stuff, not nothing crazy that's gonna demand so much attention. Like I play like Final Fantasy, like I'm playing Final Fantasy 7 on my laptop majority of the time while I trade. It's things like Portal that I might play. What else? You know, just light stuff like that that I can just kind of just look away from the screen without it being a big deal. It's games I could just pause real quick at any given time. All of that kind of stuff. During times like this, you kind of gotta, or else you'll die of boredom just looking at the fucking chart all goddamn day, especially when nothing exciting is happening at all. I.e. today. Today is Monday and there's no headlines really hitting after this pre-market 7 o'clock headline. It hasn't really been much going on. So, but you got to be ready at any given moment's notice. You know what I mean? At any given moment's notice, we can get a random headline that's like very moving. And, you know, I want to be here for that. It's going to move the price, hopefully, to an opportunity for me, an entry opportunity for me. All right, so this headline that just came out on this candle, they're saying that, yeah, well, we're getting the headline. I'm not going to explain what the headline is because I didn't explain the setting of the headline. I'm not sure if I want to just watch and see what happens or if I actually want to take a trade here after breaking this level. I'm going to paper trade this one. Let's just say we got in right here. Not live trading this. I just want to see what would have happened. But I don't think that was a strong enough. It was a significant enough headline, but the way I don't know. I just don't feel like it's enough to keep it going down, momentum, having downward momentum. But we're gonna act like I entered there and just see what happens. Because it is something to push it in a direction. Honestly, just because it wasn't being in any real direction before, there was no headline really that made it push any direction. So us getting a headline now that's significant enough, yeah. I feel like that could push it in a direction, which it seems to be doing now. But we're paper trading. Yeah, we getting some headlines coming out, multiple that are decent. We didn't really get any decent headlines this whole time since pretty much this. So anything that's decent enough will push the market in a direction, pretty much, because it's just been like this. It happened. It came out before. First decent headline came out before it broke, and then it broke here. So I would have been like, okay, we enter here on this candle close, which I did, paper trading. I would have put my stop. Like I said, I want them close. So it'd be like right there. This would be the stop. Moving it up. Yeah, see, all it took was like one decent headline. Because no decent headline came out before this. Just one decent headline to push it in a direction. This is the type of shit that we want to see when I'm trading a headline driven market strategy. that shitty price action outside of just headline drops, headline news. So this is a perfect example. I would also move my stop now. So about right there. I have the potential to lose. From this point, I just have a potential to lose this little bit and the potential to gain wherever it ends up. But that's a small loss to take if I was to take a L. If you're wondering what my trading strategy is for the headline driven market strategy, I already stated that a little earlier, pretty much at least the basis of it. All right, I'm moving to break even now. So my stop is now break even. I'm moving it past it a little bit just so it's visible, but I'm literally would have moved it to break even at this point. Just one headline to tip the direction of the day when it's directionless. Very easy, very simple. When it's like that. And to be clear, I'll draw an arrow for where I entered the candle. It would have been this candle. It would have been the close of this candle because it broke this swing, that level. And worst case scenario, we get stopped out right here. You know, it's break even. I lose nothing. Judging by this candle and this other doji right here, it kind of looks like price still has that momentum to the downside. I love trading. Would have loved a little bit more if I actually enter, but you know, I'm a little bit more on the conservative side when it comes to how I do things. This is my first time even implementing this strategy. This is day one of implementing this strategy that I just created over the weekend. So I did back test it and all of that, but look at that. Now right here, I'll move my stop right here just because this level, I don't want it to come back up and bite me in the ass. I want it to breeze past this level. It shouldn't hover, linger, move up to about this point. I don't want to see none of that. I want to see it breeze past. Sheesh. Look at that. That's beautiful. All that momentum. There hasn't been any headlines that came out since then. So there was nothing to add to that momentum. There was nothing to take away from that momentum. It just had that push. That one direction. We was already extremely up. We was about 2% on the day up on the SPY. So it had, you know, rewound. Now I'm moving this to this level. Maybe a little prematurely, but I'm just me being greedy, this is where I'm moving my stop already. Is right at this level. Maybe a little bit before that. And with this strategy, I do need the stop loss. I need the stop loss to be closed over, not wicked over. The candle needs to be closed over that for me to be stopped out. Actually, on second thought, nah. I'm not waiting until candle close because in the headline driven market, that shit could easily just shoot way up here and then I'm fucked by the time candle close happens. So like I probably will exit if price just goes past by a little bit. If it goes past that by a little bit, regardless, like I'm not waiting for a candle close. If it goes past that a little bit, like right up to here at this point, I'd be like, all right, time to get out, and I would have got out. I wouldn't be playing that game. Because all it needs is one headline for it to shoot all the way up here. And if I'm waiting till close, I'm fucked. I'm going to play that during a headline-driven market. But see right here, how I just went by a very little bit and stuff like that. I'm not concerned about getting out. I'd get out right here. So I would get out right here. It could easily keep that momentum going. I could very easily see it keep driving down, but I would get out right here. It seems to be reacting to this level, and I want to see it like just really just breeze past that. But so yeah, I would have got out. We would have hit I got out about right here. Would have been like 78 ticks, 12% on the SPY. That would have been the move. So it was cool. But like I said, it could still, like, I still see it having the momentum to just keep going. If it keeps going, I don't see it interacting with any other anything until at least maybe this point. But then again, shitty price action. So it might not, it could just stop in between there for no rhyme or reason. It would seem. But yeah, so that would have been the trade. Had I had taken it, we would have made, we would have won that. We would have hit pretty much 1-to-1 ratio, a little over 1-to-1 ratio on the trade, because my stop would have been like right there. We would have went a little over the 1-to-1. But that was like, that would have been that. This was like the first trade of that strategy of the headline driven market strategy that I just created over the weekend, or came up with over the weekend. So, and I think I did a good job on the exit, because it's just really just hovering around this level. I wouldn't want to see that. I would want to see the continued momentum. So I don't know what this drop was right here. I don't have any headlines on that. I have no idea what that is. I don't know what that was. I don't have anything on this candle, but that has to be something. But yeah, if I would have stayed in the trade, which I'm not concerned about me getting out when I did, but like I said, I also said it I could very easily see the momentum continuing to the downside, and we would have got all right here during this candle. I would have moved that up to maybe like right here, maybe, you know what I mean? I don't know what that candle was though. Things are getting interesting. But yeah, I erase all this stuff now. But that was the practice trade. That would have, I either would have got out right here. Well, I did get out right there. So I just say I got out right there. But it did what I thought was more leaning towards, which was the momentum was more on the downside. I don't know what this candle was though, man. That had to have been some other thing, but I didn't get anything about that. I don't think there was any headline on that candle. I don't know why. I don't see anything. Yeah, the reason I'm not really going into detail as to what exact headlines I'm getting and what what the headlines are saying, is because I'd have to build the context around it as well, which I'm not going to do for every video, because that's also very important when it comes to the headlines. The context around it, and because that affects the impact of the headline, is definitely, what's the context around it. Getting some headlines now. negative headline. Nothing too crazy, but it could easily add to this momentum on the downside. But you see, this is why I trade the headline driven market strategy during shit like this. And we do not do my opening market strategy whatsoever. Yeah, so like these I think I'm getting the headline a little late from this candle, but these sets of candles, there were a few headlines that came out close together. So that's what all this is about. You can tell by the volume. That's what all that's about. Yeah, boys. That strategy I got in my back pocket now. We can trade in any market condition. Any market condition. Unless price action is just fucked up and it's not due to headlines and there's no headlines coming out for days and stuff like that. Outside of those situations, we could trade in any condition. Now imagine if I didn't get out right here. If I just decided to be a little bit more patient. Because I did say I'd allow it to like be closing going a little bit above my stop. I just got out because I just felt the momentum wasn't there as much. But if I just would have waited just a few fucking candles, I would have seen this and I just would have kept it riding, baby. And it would have you feel me? Like, look at that. Like right here, it went all the way down to this level. You kidding me? Got out about like right here. Got in right there. Look at that. That would have been 360 ticks. About 55% on the SPY. Bro, like, let's say one micro contract. Literally one micro contract. If I was to have like entered where I entered and got out right here on this level, I would have risked, I don't know how much I would have risked, but on that one contract, $447 with ease. If I would have held through these few candles and then decided to get out there on this level. What? Or if I had trailed my stop, because this 90 EMA is a little far. Usually I trail the 90 EMA when it gets far enough, but that would have been too far behind. So I would have had my stop actually ahead of this. But yes, freaking, let's say $400 if I let it hit my stop and I didn't actually get out right here. Off of that's just one contract, 400. This is a freaking nice move. I'm kind of zoomed out a little bit on the chart, so it doesn't really seem to. But that move, what did I say it was percentage wise? Bro, 50, that would have been a 50% move that I would have got. I think the other dilemma that I'm thinking about using this strategy, when when I do a trade, how many trades am I willing to do? Just one a day using this strategy, or really just as many times as the opportunity presents itself? Or do I just trade until I feel satisfied? Like, what number of trades should I be taking? That is a question. Also, this is a reminder to note to self, be wary of and be aware of reiterated news. There are a lot of times where I have gotten news maybe it could be an hour or two ago or just 5-10 minutes ago, and then it's reiterated by some other news and I'm getting it multiple times. So, just be aware of like getting old news and just remember, just know that, oh yeah, we already reacted to that. That was old news. All right, looks like we're getting some more headlines. That's what this is. I believe that's what this is because it just came out. It's not really significant. Again, I'm not going into detail on what the headlines are because it doesn't mean much unless I also set up the context as to why a headline is significant or not. And just know the Iran war is what's going on right now. That's what these headlines are about. Things that are happening within that. But even with that, we're 4 weeks in, 3 or 4 weeks in. It's context that's within the context that I'd have to explain. So we're not doing all of that. Can always go back to watch the other videos I have within that week, get a better idea of what's going on. But generally, I'm not talking about news or headlines and stuff like that at all, especially if I'm not trading my headline-driven market strategy. There's no point in me talking about news because news doesn't influence my opening market strategy at all. And I only trade one or the other. I don't do both at the same time. At least not as of now. So let's see what's going on. It's 12:48. Not much has really transpired, other than the headlines here. And I believe, yeah, there was a headline here. Might have been one up here as well, but I know for a fact there's a headline here. Headline here. Headlines in other spots too, but as far as what seems to have been the more significant headlines, at least the ones that are enough to move the market, like here, this huge one right here. Those are the only ones that I'll ever point out that are coming out for the most part. Like there's a headline here, but I don't think that one I know wasn't enough to really be a momentum mover. It was kind of just a reiteration of news previous, whether Trump said this again or they're just reiterating him saying it before earlier today. It's nothing new.